Hey, what's the good word, friends? It's Totter here on another nostalgic bender that became so overwhelming I had to spew it onto my YouTube channel. Because if I didn't, then I'd have to subject all my friends to my incessant rambling, so you're welcome, friends. However, I feel this will reach home with a lot more of you than some of my past videos. Today I'm going to go over a series of games that many of us as kids spent hours and hours racing through. Games that have withstood the test of time so well that they received a modern-day retro makeover in 2017. But not before they shoved a bunch of crappy 3D games down our throats. The games I speak of are none other than the classic Sonic the Hedgehog series, and I thought it'd be a grand old time if I went over my top 10 favorite zones. Now, a question most of you probably have is what constitutes a classic Sonic game? It's a fair question, as even before the next-gen consoles came out, there were still tons of Sonic games out on handhelds that could be categorized as classic. But I think we can all agree that there are only a small handful of games that most of us are going to remember. Those being Sonic 1, 2, 3, Knuckles, and CD. Having said that, those are the games I used to construct my list. Also, those were the only Sonic games from that era that I played, so there's that too. But with that out of the way, let's get to the list. Here are my top 10 favorite zones from the main classic entries of Sonic the Hedgehog. Let's start off the countdown with a little controversy, shall we? Carnival Night Zone from Sonic 3 left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, and I can understand why. Between getting squished out of nowhere all the time and those damn bumpers constantly getting in the way, this zone probably had a lot of us jumping up and down on immovable red barrels in frustration. But I'm kind of a sucker for zones that visually and musically appeal to me, and Carnival Night gets an A+ in both regards. Midway through most Sonic games, there's always some sort of night zone, and they're usually the best looking in whatever game they're in. Sonic 1 did it with Starlight, 2 did it with Casino Night, and 3 with Carnival Night. Maybe it's just the night sky making all the flashy colors pop out even more, but it's a pleasure to look at. Carnival Night isn't so difficult to get through as much as it is annoying. But it's carnival themed, so much like getting swindled out of your money by some curly mustached game vendor at an actual carnival, you're gonna get swindled out of your rings by the various tricks and traps Dr. Robotnik has laid out for you. Just be on your toes and you'll be fine. And all the while, enjoy the sights and sounds of Carnival Night Zone. If it's one thing I can accuse classic Sonic games of, is that stages are more prone to becoming annoying and borderline unfair as opposed to more difficult by design. One exception to this rule is Death Egg Zone in Sonic & Knuckles. The platforming is some of the hardest in the series, largely in part to the anti-gravity pipes, the bullets coming out of the walls, and the moving conveyor belts that threaten to throw you into danger. Nothing that I deem unfair, but it does require 100% focus to get through unscathed. The enemies are tough but reactionable, if that's a word. And same go for the bosses, which there are 3 of. You first fight off against Red Eye in Act 1, who, much like the boss in Metropolis Zone from Sonic 2, releases one of its balls on you when you hit it. Then it breaks away from its apparatus, grows spike platforms, and goes Dr. Octagonopus on you when you hit it. Definitely challenging, but manageable. Then Act 2 rolls around where the anti-gravity chutes are introduced, and wouldn't you know, they play a part in the boss fight. Basically, you're just hiding away in the chutes, sending spikes up and down the fields until you win or Sonic throws up. Then it's off to fight the great Eggman Robo, which is a very doable fight when Tails isn't pulling this bullshit all the time. To top it off, you have a stressful final chase with Robotnik to finish him off. That is, unless you have all 7 Super Emeralds, and it's off to Doomsday. All in all, a fantastic experience and a good way to finish off a great game. Yes, the music tracks are freaking amazing. Let's just get that one out of the way right now. It's what most people remember about this zone. But I felt if I was going to include any zone in my countdown, there was going to need to be some more qualifications met. And Flying Battery Zone from Sonic & Knuckles checks off more boxes in my personal criteria other than having a jammin' soundtrack. But let's start there. The leads are energetic, the bass is driving and pumps you up. What's it make you want to do? Oh yeah, go really freaking fast. And there's a lot of gotta go fast to be had here. One of my personal favorite spots in this zone is where you go flying down this giant chute with a freshly popped lightning shield and go through this collection of rings and they all fly around you on the screen as you try to pull them in. You also come up through the top of the ship sometimes to spin around on propellers, zooming through lines of rings while you maze your way through the blades. Zones that have two different scenes to traverse are a welcome sight and a perfect change of scenery to help keep things fresh. But it's not all just about going fast either. There's still some cleverly placed platforming to split up the stints of sprinting a speed junkies crave. I will say the boss fights aren't the greatest, but the complaints end there. Overall, a solid zone worthy of admiration. So, the thing about zones in Sonic CD is that most of them really aren't that difficult to run through. If you're not running back and forth in time searching for the transporter, then you're more than likely blazing through the game at lightning speed without giving more than a passing glance to where you were at. At any rate, I did have a terrific time treading the twisting tunnels of Tardust Teedway Tone. Sorry, I got carried away with the alliteration. But Stardust Speedway Zone from Sonic CD was a damn good time. Lots of speed, funky music, and beautiful nighttime scenery to please the senses, all while posing a reasonable challenge for this late in the game. Basically, at the beginning of the game, this scrap metal jerkweed sweeps by and steals your girl. Well, more like Sonic stood there, saw her get captured, and was like, ugh, there she goes, getting captured like an idiot. Go save her, I guess. At the end of Stardust Speedway, you get in this race with Metal Sonic, dodging ramps, spikes, and Metal Sonic itself, who casually falls behind just to zoom up and hit you. And if that's not enough, you got Dr. Eggman chasing you with a laser beam that will kill you, whether you have rings or not. Your first couple of tries, you're more than likely gonna die, but it's definitely a satisfying victory when you make it. Pass through the gates, rescue Amy, and bam! Stardust Speedway complete. It wouldn't be a Sonic game without a chill, grassy zone to lead things off now, would it? First impressions are important. These are the zones that players new and old will see when turning one of these games on. And I say they all did an excellent job showcasing the game they represent. Tons of bright colors, foliage, lots of speed, loops, corkscrews, all the fun, lively stuff you look for in a Sonic game. And if you ask me which zone was my favorite of the bunch, I'd have to go with Emerald Hill Zone from Sonic 2. The first thing I'll mention is your buddy Tails gets to join you for the first time. I know it doesn't have anything to do with the zone, but it's still important. And now your younger siblings get to play with you. Yay! Here's a controller, go jump on things and stop telling on me for hogging the Sega! For the zone itself, it's a leisurely stroll through some grassy hills while listening to the most Sonic-sounding music ever. It might not seem like much, but it's a great primer for the rest of the game. And if you're not careful, the badniks can even trip you up from time to time. The monkeys are the worst, and if you're not quick enough, you're gonna catch a coconut to the face. So despite it being the first zone in the game, it still offers just a little dash of challenge to keep you on your toes, which is nice. Except for the super easy boss fight, which they directly ripped from Happy Easy Fun Time Zone from Sonic Children's Edition. That's not a real thing, but you get the picture. Now we're getting into the really, really good stuff. Well, mostly. I'm about to piss you guys off soon, but we'll get there in due time. For now, though, we're at a pick a lot of you were probably hoping to see, and I'm here to fully agree with you. Hydrocity Zone from Sonic 3 is all like, hey, we're gonna throw you in a bunch of water, and we're gonna make it fun! If the sales pitch for this zone was open with this line, I'm sure the salesperson would have been thrown out the door. But some things you just have to give a try. I mean, I get it. The first second of the zone is you dropping into a giant pool and you're like, no, it's too early for this water zone bullcrap. Sonic 3, bad game, 0 out of 10. But eventually you come busting out through the floor and all of a sudden it's loop, speed platform, loop, tunnel, chutes going down the water, chutes coming out of the water, Sonic running on f***ing water. To be honest, it was really hard for me to want to explore this zone because I was having too much fun just flying around grooving to the funky soundtrack. Having said that, I missed almost every giant ring in the zone, but whatever. You take out the mini-boss, transition right into Act 2, and oh jeez, the wall's closing in, oh shit, God, get out of here, f***! And then it's more of the same loop, speed platforms, and all the other elements that make for a really, really fun zone. here's a fun and embarrassing fact about younger me. I once timed myself out of a life because I wouldn't stop jumping into the damn slot machine. It was a truly sobering and reflective moment as I stared a potential gambling addiction straight in the face. But all jokes aside, Carnival Night Zone on steroids, aka Casino Night Zone from Sonic 2, is pretty much a video game inside a video game. Sure, you're playing Sonic 2 still, but you're shooting pinball, you're playing slots, and losing every penny you've ever earned right before getting belligerently drunk, fighting security, and getting thrown out. The visuals are right on par with the aforementioned night zones that most classic Sonic games carry. Lots of bright colors, neon signs, a swinging beat, and sweet, sweet cheddar! I will say this zone suffers from a constant need to slow down and traverse tight corridors with moving platforms that can crush you, and annoyingly positioned bumpers that make it difficult to progress. It's like the casino is calling out, trying to get me to stay.
Come back, Totter. Come back and play slots. More pinball. Play more slots. More slots. More slots.
Jeez, I really need to get to the next entry. But no, aside from those minor flaws, Casino Night Zone is an absolute pleasure to play, and is one I look forward to every time I fire this game up. Holy crap, this zone is amazing, and for so many reasons, which is why it's so high on the list, and now I'm gonna tell you about them. That's how this thing works, right? Lava Reef Zone from Sonic and Knuckles I hold in the same regard as Death Egg from the same game, where a spike in difficulty is reasonable and challenging as opposed to cheap and annoying. There's plenty of careful treading that needs to be done with dashes of speed here and there to tide the addiction. And you really get the sense you're traveling underground with how claustrophobic it can feel at times. Combine that with the constant danger of falling into lava and appropriately challenging badniks, and you've got a pretty solid zone. But then it gets even better. So as I mentioned, Lava Reef Zone is from Sonic & Knuckles, and in this game and Sonic 3, going from act to act, each zone will present you with slightly altered scenery and a remix of the zone's theme. Like Mushroom Hill going from summer to fall, and Sandopolis Zone, where you're in a desert, then next you're inside of a tomb. In Act 1 of Lava Reef, you're inside of a volcano, but as soon as you enter Act 2, everything hardens and goes cold, crystals form on the walls, the music becomes eclectic and mysterious, and it's largely because of these changes that this zone appeared so high on my list. Everything is so pretty to look at, and the sudden shift in setting makes for a real fresh experience. Not to mention a lot of the traps and enemies are quite different from the previous act. And to finish it all off, if you play as Sonic, you get to face off against Robotnik in one of the most challenging boss fights in the game. That is, if you miss the fire shield on the way down like I usually do. From beginning to end, this zone is freaking amazing. I told you I was about to piss you off, didn't I? Well, I would apologize, but here's the thing. Labyrinth Zone from Sonic 1 isn't so much about level design, aesthetic, or any other elements that would make up a top 10 entry. This one is about triumph. This one is about how a level has taunted you for so much of your childhood that you felt you would never get past it. But then finally, that day came. You chase Robotnik to the top of the water, the music changes back to the zone's theme, and there it is. The beautiful, beautiful capsule waiting to be popped. You did it. You finally did it! Yeah, I get that Labyrinth Zone is a slow-moving, watery nightmare, but after I beat it the first time, I was very eager to do another playthrough just to see if I could beat it again. The more I played it, the easier it became, then all of a sudden the annoying level mechanics stopped bugging me so much. Then my appreciation for the aesthetics rapidly grew, and the theme is short and sweet and very bouncy. And the rush of relief you get when escaping death time and time again as you pop out of the water at the last second, with the beginning of the theme doubling as some sort of fanfare music congratulating you for not dying. All of a sudden, this seemingly maniacal zone is now under your thumb and you're like, nah, bitch, this is my house now! Has anyone ever experienced this journey with a level in a game? Just me? Oh, well, there you go. Number 2 is Labyrinth Zone. And thank you for not leaving. Alright, 10 through 2 are in the books, so you know what that means. Time for some honorable mentions. There are well over 30 zones between the games that I used to make this list, and given how great all these games are, you can bet there were some zones that hurt me to leave off the video. So in no particular order, here they are. Alright, number 1 is Chemical Plant Zone from Sonic 2, and that's all there is to it. Now, I just have one question to ask all of you. Do you want to go fast, or do you want to go really fast? So fast that the camera can't keep up with you and you run off screen, break the speed of light, travel back in time, murder Robotnik's parents to stop him from being born in the first place, but then these games would never exist. But hey, it's incredibly hard to not get jacked up about playing through one of the most thrilling, best-looking zones ever. Emerald Hill was a perfect introduction to what a Sonic game is all about, but holds your hand a little bit in the speed department. Then you get plopped into this cyberpunk toxic factory, nab a few early rings, and you're off to the races, baby! Giant hills and tons of loops, all usually intertwined to act as one big roller coaster, so that when the ride's over you're screaming, "Again! Again!" Which not to worry, because there's plenty of them throughout the entire zone. There's also a lot of tunnels to twist and turn into getting from place to place, giving the player several avenues to take towards finishing each act, giving some replay value along the way. The boss fight is a decent challenge for this early in the game, despite Tails trying to Ralph Wiggum his way into your good graces. Not to mention you're doing all of this while rocking out to one of the greatest tracks the entire Sonic franchise has ever created. As a matter of fact, when I finish this video, I'm probably going to go play Sonic 2 again, because much like a roller coaster, I want to ride through Chemical Plant Zone one more time. Alright everyone, thanks again for jumping into another random video of mine, and hopefully you all enjoyed yourselves. It's still fun here and there to get lost in the wonderful world of nostalgia, and with any luck, maybe a spark of motivation will hit me again and I'll make something else. In the meantime though, if any of you out there are Pokemon fans, I'm currently doing a Soul Link Let's Play of Gold and Silver with my good buddy Just Joshin. We're uploading Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so if you're interested, go ahead and check them out, and also be sure to check the description, go sub over at Josh's channel as well. But that's gonna be all for me today, guys. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video, and hit me with a comment on what your favorite classic Sonic zones are. Thanks again for watching, this is Totter, and I'll see you later.